Nintendo has struggled a lot over the years. You had the disastrous launch of the Virtual Boy, the low sales of the GameCube, and of course the train wreck that was the Wii U. But out of all these awful years, one has stood out among the rest. One that many recall as the worst year to be a Nintendo fan, 2015. This year saw the release of some interesting games to say the least. And in this video, I want to take a look back at this year and the titles that defined its infamous reputation, and really see what made it such an awful year. So, without further ado, my name is Mariomikester, and welcome to a Nintendo 2015 retrospective. To fully understand why many regard this as one of, if not Nintendo's worst year ever, we gotta recap everything that led up to this point. First off, we have the Wii U. At this point, it was pretty obvious there was no saving this system. I mean, it had its own 3D Mario, Smash Bros, and even Mario Kart now, but that didn't seem to stop it from selling worse and worse every single year. With Nintendo now mainly focusing on the 3DS, which was doing pretty alright all things considered. But now that Nintendo had basically given up on the Wii U, it was free game for them to just release absolute slop for this system. They knew core fans would buy anything they released for this system because, well, they bought the Wii U in the first place. This isn't to say the Wii U is an awful console at all. In fact, there are dozens of things I adore about this system. But when it's clear the company behind it has lost all hope for it, the quality of the games released is bound to diminish, with 2015 marking the beginning of the end. I think it's pretty obvious this year is when Nintendo really took a step back and realized they had to start working on a new system. One that expanded upon everything that made the Wii amazing and got rid of everything that made the Wii U awful. But in order to keep the company afloat while they worked for a few years on that new console, they still had to release games for the Wii U and 3DS, which is how some of these awful games were born. So with all that in mind, let's take a look at some of these games. Kicking off 2015, we had the release of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D. Majora's Mask is a cult classic among Zelda fans. Everything about it, including its dark story, weird art direction, and extremely short development time of around 15 months, makes this a really special game to a lot of people. However, after Ocarina of Time got a 3DS remake in the form of Ocarina of Time 3D in 2011, many fans wondered if Majora's Mask would also get the same treatment. And at first, this was not going to be the case, as Ocarina of Time 3D was a part of two N64 games, remade simply to show off the 3D effect of the 3DS. But after high demand and good sales of Ocarina of Time 3D, Nintendo decided Majora's Mask should get the same treatment. But when it came to working on this remake, Zelda director Eiji Aonuma changed a lot of what made this game special to so many people, and just generally ruined the experience for hardcore fans. When working on this remake, Aonuma went back to the original and compiled a list of things about the game he didn't like, even going as far to say that something was wrong with him during the time he was working on the original. However, what Aonuma thinks was wrong with him is what a lot of fans believed made this game so special in the first place. This odd mind space he was in led to the dark tone and eerie atmosphere of Termina. So essentially what many saw as beautiful art from the mind of someone going through a dark time, Aonuma saw as mistakes and oversights from the mind of a lunatic. Now, fellow YouTuber Narelle has a really good video going over the insane amount of changes in this remake, which I would highly recommend watching if you're really interested in this topic. But to sum up the major changes, general movement tweaks make Deku Link control weird during the water skipping segments, leading to the player having to go out of their way to get a running start and constantly reposition themselves, when the original allowed you to simply keep your momentum through all of them. Zora swimming was entirely reworked to go from fast agile movement that made underwater sections fun to zoom through and master, to slow clunky movement that only let you speed up at the cost of magic, which from my playthrough of this game, I remember being really annoying to find sometimes. And leads to a general halt in fun as you need this magic sometimes to progress, and if you don't have it, you need to backtrack to where you can find it, and it's incredibly annoying. Probably the most notable change though is the sheer contrast in atmosphere. What I and many others love about the original is the almost ugly look to the game. There's just something so ominous and dark about the gloomy atmosphere of the original. And comparing that to the brightened and cleaned up 3DS version completely changes the vibe, and in my opinion, misses the point of what made the original so special. In the end though, while Majora's Mask 3D fails to capture the atmosphere of the original, and ruins its gameplay a bit, it's far from the worst game to come out this year, but definitely set the tone for what's to come. Next up in March, we saw the release of Mario Party 10. And being the big 10th home console installment in one of Mario's biggest spin-offs, you'd expect this game to have some love poured into it, maybe even possibly some care, but instead you get what is easily the worst entry in the series so far. It's kind of crazy they managed to one-up this game with an even worse one in 2017 in the form of Mario Party The Top 100, but that's a topic for another day. What makes Mario Party 10 so bad is that it is pure slop. It takes everything that made Mario Party 9 such a mediocre entry and makes it so much worse. They kept the whole car mechanic where instead of everyone moving around on their own with their own dice rolls, like how pretty much all board games have worked ever, you all move as one collective in this giant car. And instead of working to collect coins so you can buy stars and hopefully win, now coins have been completely removed. And instead of trying to have the most stars at the end, you collect these mini stars throughout the game, and the person with the most at the end wins. This is such an odd change to me because while yes, it's nice to mix things up and change the formula every once in a while, this is just a downgrade in every single possible way. Strategy with coins is completely removed. In older Mario parties, you had to think of how you wanted to use coins. Did you want to save up a bunch so you were able to buy a star? Or did you want to spend them wisely on items that help you reach stars faster? Oh yeah, this game also completely removes items, so say goodbye to any strategy with them either. Now, with all these core mechanics removed, you'd think that maybe it'd give them some more time to make the boards and general gameplay interesting, right? Nope. Since you're all together in a car, the boards have never been more linear, with it literally just being a race to the end of the board, with little to no alternate paths to take. The only redeemable part of the general gameplay loop of this game is the minigames. But guess what? They changed those too. Instead of having a minigame at the end of every turn like literally every traditional Mario Party game, now you have to land on minigame spaces to even play them at all. This game is chocked full of so many random changes that just make me go, why would you do this? No one was complaining about the Mario Party formula. Literally all you have to do for a new game is create interesting new boards and minigames. They quite literally shot themselves in the leg with this game and Mario Party 9 for no reason at all. I'd say the only redeeming quality this game has outside of the minigames is the Bowser Party. This would actually be a fun mode if it weren't trapped in the worst home console Mario Party. This mode sees one player playing as Bowser on the gamepad, while the other 4 people do their best to get as far away as possible from him, as if he catches up to you, you play a Bowser minigame in which you have to avoid his attacks. And if you take enough hits, you lose all your hearts and you're out of the game. This mode isn't even that interesting, but contrasted against the rest of the train wreck that is this game, it's actually pretty good. Oh, and don't even get me started on the amiibo board that is entirely locked behind owning Mario Party 10 specific amiibos. It's just not even worth talking about because there's another game similar to this mode we'll talk about later. For now though, we fast forward to November, when we saw the release of the Devil Incarnate, aka Chibi Robo Ziplash. Chibi Robo Plug-in to Adventure on the GameCube is a really cool game with a super unique premise. You're a robot, a family bot to help clean up around the house, and exploring this giant house is loads of fun. There's so many little secrets, and the strategy that comes with trying to get as much stuff as possible before you have to find an outlet to recharge is super cool. I only played this game for the first time when it came to GameCube Switch Online, and I'd honestly recommend it to anyone with GameCube Online because it's an adorable little adventure with tons of quirks and funny Nintendo humor that should get a lot more love. Chibi Robo Ziplash, on the other hand, is a complete departure from what made the GameCube entry so interesting in the first place, and is at best a mediocre 2D platformer. You see, this game released during that weird era of Nintendo where they were making a ton of 2D games. You had the success of the new Super Mario Bros. Series, which sparked a 2D revolution inside Nintendo. You had new 2D Kirbys releasing left and right, 2D Yoshis, 2D Donkey Kongs, and even the 3D Marios like 3D Land and World taking a lot of inspiration from Mario's 2D adventures. And while Nintendo may have believed that making a Chibi Robo 2D platformer would help widen its appeal, in reality, it did the exact opposite. You had a game on the GameCube that was actually original and unique turn into a 2D side-scrolling slopfest. It's not even that the gameplay is awful. I mean, I've played a bit of this game, and it's fine. But there's nothing interesting or unique about it apart from being able to zip your cord around, and even that can be clunky at times. Imagine if they put some effort into a new Chibi Robo, and saw what made the GameCube game such a cult classic among Nintendo fans, and did another game similar to that. It could even have little doors you enter with 2D sections that featured mini levels similar to the gameplay from Ziplash. But instead, they pumped out another 2D slop game and expected it to sell well. Things didn't just stop there though. A few weeks later on November 20th, we saw the release of Mario Tennis Ultra Smash. And this one is personal. I got this game for Christmas in 2015 alongside Super Mario Maker, and while Super Mario Maker became one of my most played Wii U games, Ultra Smash became quite the opposite. This is the most bare-bones Mario sports game of all time. First off, there is a single court, no cool background changes or unique music, just simply the same stadium with different hardness settings that add virtually nothing to the gameplay. And in terms of the different modes you get, it's basically just Mega Tennis mode where you occasionally become big and that's it. The Mario sports games are special because they're the sport with a twist. But the only twist this game has to offer is that you wasted your money. I mean, just look at how bare bones the menu is. Old Mario sports games at least have something interesting going on in their menus, but these look like they were just thrown together in a couple minutes. This game was solely created as a holiday cash grab. That's the only reason I can think of for its existence. I mean, this game is such a big nothing burger that outside of criticizing the fact that its gameplay is dull and unoriginal when compared to previous games, there's literally nothing else to talk about. I guess I can talk about one of this game's unique modes, Mega Ball Rally, which is just you hitting a ball back and forth like you do in regular gameplay, except it's big. Wow. You'd think this game would be $20, maybe $40 at most at release, right? Nope, this was released at the full price of $60. Yes, this game is the same price as Super Mario 3D World and Mario Kart 8. And this was during the time when Nintendo actually priced their games accordingly. So they willingly priced this at $60 while pricing Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, one of the most creative and unique platformers of all time, at $50. I remember being so disappointed by this game when I got it for Christmas that I refused to ever play it again. That tradition though was unfortunately broken when I started making this video, and it is even worse than I remember. In my opinion, this game is the thesis of Nintendo's 2015. Pure slop with no love or soul at all, just a simple corporate cash grab. But you think that it would be impossible to release an even worse game on the same day, right? Wrong. Released on the same day, November 20th, we also saw Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. An Animal Crossing on Wii U was something fans were begging for, and at E3 2015, their prayers would pretty much go unanswered when a new Animal Crossing for Wii U was announced, but ended up being an Amiibo-required board game. Yeah, you can't even get past the title screen of this game without owning an Animal Crossing Amiibo. Also, for some insane reason, this game was also priced at $60. I have no idea what Nintendo was thinking of with this price. And as you'd expect, the gameplay is incredibly boring, with only one board to play on. Very similar to the Amiibo Party mode from Mario Party 10. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo saw the Amiibo mode for Mario Party 10, and in like 4 months cooked up this god-awful excuse for an Animal Crossing game. Reception for this game was just as you'd expect. People hated it. I mean, reviews were so bad, Eurogamer didn't even give it a score. It just says avoid. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot to say about this game, as I've never played it because I respect myself. But from the gameplay and reviews I've seen, Eurogamer summed it up pretty well in their review. 2015 was not a great year for Nintendo. This is when it became clear to everyone that not only did the general population not care about the Wii U, Nintendo didn't either. The pure slop release during this time put a bad taste in even diehard Nintendo fans' mouths about the company, and the following year, 2016, wasn't much better. But did they learn from this year? I think so. From this year, I think it's clear Nintendo learned there was a level of quality that their consumers expected from them, and the awful sales of all the games mentioned in this video were proof enough of that fact. They learned they can't just pump out anything and expect people to buy it, which is why we saw a huge jump in game quality on the Switch. The only game released in that era that I'd say even came close to the lack of care from 2015 was Mario Strikers Battle League. But even then, that game was just too focused heavily on online play. The general gameplay wasn't that bad. But I'd say living through this era of Nintendo was easily the worst time to be a fan of the company, and is a time I do not miss.